The waning of Pax Americana. Chapter 1 focuses on Pax Americana. Pax refers to peace, so Pax Americana refers to peace in America. Pax describes a secure and stable political and economic order backed by the principles of prevailing military power. A Pax emerges after a significant win on the battlefield, in which the victory is maintained through foreign intervention and economic and cultural exchange. Pax Americana was the first ever Pax which lasted 2 decades. There remained significant alterations between periods of war and peace. Some were reluctant to equate Pax with peace because it takes devastation to get to peace. Pax Mongolica used brute force to subdue challengers and secure sea lanes and trade routes. This empire was enforced by separate political entities rather than one. Pax Ottoman was essentially a Muslim Pax. Several wars were fought during this period, especially between Persia and the Ottoman Empire, so control was shifted between them. Pax Britannica was the largest non-contiguous empire to ever exist, and it was marked by a period largely absent of great power. Is Pax Americana over? This question has been debated for decades, starting in 1970 with apprehension about U.S. decline, and in the post-Cold War era by the rise of the West, where other countries are becoming more powerful. This question is hard to answer because scales of world power change slowly. The first reference of Pax Americana described peace within the U.S. at the end of the Civil War era in 1865. From the 1898 Spanish-American War to World War II, Pax Americana referred to promotion of stability and democracy in the Americas, achieved by supplanting European interference with U.S. interventions. The destruction of economies caused by World War II weakened all great powers except the U.S. The U.S. gained allies by assisting through food shipments and by providing grants and credits. Pax Americana is based on the U.S.'s values and principles. The liberal orientation of Pax Americana closely resembles Pax Britannica because it's a system based on liberal values of open seas, free trade, and respect for human rights. Overall, the U.S. has delivered relative peace over the years by extending security guarantees backed by the military and intervening to suppress conflicts that could pose a threat. Right after World War II, the U.S. and Soviet Union relations went downhill due to competing geopolitical designs and ideological differences. The U.S. and Great Britain were unsure of the Soviet Union's intentions. The Soviet Union could not coexist peacefully with the U.S. In 1947, the Truman Doctrine was established, and it pledged to aid countries at risk of Soviet Union's expansionism. The first Cold War crisis occurred when the Soviet Union refused to withdraw troops from Iran by a certain deadline. This didn't follow the United Nations inspection. Tensions were eased years later with negotiations and treaties. The relationship remained on edge up until years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was a symbolic ending of a 28-year-long division of East and West Germany. The Soviet Union dissolved in 1991. After this, the U.S. was the first among equals, extending itself militarily, economically, and culturally. The U.S. was seen as bound to lead, having the power. Unipolar order was more peaceful because it made states certain about distribution of power and decreased the probabilities of conflicts. It was durable because no single state could overpower the overwhelming U.S. military power. Due to lack of systemic constraints, the U.S. followed an unusually activist foreign policy agenda, policing the world and promoting market freedoms. The Obama administration shamed the U.S. into recognizing a more moral duty. 9/11 was the first time in history NATO invoked Article 5, which basically stated that an attack on one member was an attack on all. North Korea, Iran, and Iraq formed an axis of evil, which led to the U.S. exercising its right to self-defense against terrorists and striking against threats before they emerged. The U.S. wanted war with Iraq for several reasons, including to stop alleged terrorism and to bring democracy to Iraq. On October 16, 2002, Congress authorized the use of military in Iraq, which caused 500,000 deaths and a U.S. loss of $2 trillion. BRIC are countries that are rising in power, hence rise of the rest, that could potentially compete with the U.S. The Obama administration shifted away from full-scale military interventions toward a more covert intervention. He preferred firing missiles from aircrafts rather than sending troops out. Obama resisted solving international problems with force and followed a strategic patience approach. When Trump became president, many far-right populist leaders applauded him because for them it meant they had a better chance at pursuing controversial domestic and foreign policies that former administrations didn't approve of. Trump's America First slogan puts U.S. interests above common interests with other states, which threatens to pull the U.S. out of long-standing treaties like NATO and international agreements like NAFTA. It is believed that when the U.S. is fully engaged, the world is more peaceful and prosperous, and it would descend into turmoil if the U.S. turns isolationist. U.S. capabilities have decreased while other states are increasing. The U.S. is no longer the world's largest exporter and is continuing to lose jobs due to imports from China. The U.S. is still the world's largest economy and trader, as it's home to the world's most highly valued companies. The U.S. is the world banker, issuing the world's reserve currency. There are some countries that are increasing economically and militarily, but the U.S. is so strong in both aspects that no single state so far has been able to achieve the multidimensional power the U.S. has maintained for the past 70 years. When Syria's president attacked civilians with chemical weapons in 2013, this crossed Obama's red line, which was a 2012 warning that if Assad used chemical weapons, the U.S. military would intervene. There was no U.S. intervention, which exposed a reluctance to enforce the president's own ultimatum. The influence in the Middle East and Russia is fading as they have their own agendas. Tension is rising with China to the point where Trump had to call strategic patience. The problem is the U.S. is willing to risk losing allies if it means a better deal. This could backfire and cut out advantages that come with allies. In conclusion, Pax Americana will come to an end eventually. Pax Americana has been successfully going on for so long because of its ability to strike balance between maintaining its privileged position while ensuring sufficient global benefits to countries. It is believed that if Pax Americana were to come to an end in the next decade, it would be a result of deliberate U.S. choices.